Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Has the U.S. shared the latest intelligence with Ukraine, and does the U.S. feel that the Ukrainian government is properly preparing its citizens for the possibility of a war, because it seems like they keep downplaying it?
Well, I'm not going to speak for how the Ukrainian officials, leaders speak or engage with their citizens, but we do engage very closely with them, sharing of information as we do with our European counterparts, and that has been the case at every point in this process.
Is the State Department doing anything right now to help Americans get out of Ukraine, or just warning them to get out on their own?
Well, we have been warning for several weeks now, if not longer, that American citizens should depart. And I think you heard our national security advisor give a pretty stark warning of what would happen on purpose, what would happen if Russia were to invade, in the difficulty of not just being in the middle of a military zone, but also the difficulty of departing or getting out, and the fact that departure, means of departure could be cut off. And that was, we feel, important for American citizens in Ukraine to understand. We have been conveying that if American citizens don't have the means to depart, that we would provide assistance for those purposes. That has been the case for several weeks now.
If we don't know if Putin has made up his mind, why are we hearing this warning from Jake Sullivan that Americans should get out, ideally within the next 24 to 48 hours specifically? I don't believe we've heard that window from him before.
Because we recognize that if President Putin were to decide to invade, that this would make it a very difficult circumstance on the ground for American citizens. We don't have an assessment, as you heard him say, of him making that decision, but he could make that decision at any point. And we want to be very clear and direct with American citizens about the risk that that would pose to them, that the risk that would be posed to any civilian if they remain in the country.
This is now the second evacuation of Americans in the course.
It's not actually an evacuation, to be clear. American citizens can depart Ukraine. There are means of departing Ukraine. This is not a country where we are at war, where we have tens of thousands of troops who have been fighting a war for 20 years, so it's incredibly different.
Correct. You are correct in that. But it's the second time we've urged American citizens to get out of a country.
Actually, we've urged American citizens to depart a number of times, and that is. Well, I think this, but let me finish here, because I think it's important for people to understand. We urged American citizens to depart Kazakhstan. We urged American citizens to depart Ethiopia. This is a responsibility that the State Department and our diplomats who are serving there and serving around the world take on to keep American citizens safe. And it may not be front and center on the news in the United States, but those are conflict areas and zones where we are constantly monitoring.
But these are the two major events that have happened under this administration. And
I would say the people in Ethiopia would differ with that, as would the people in Kazakhstan or other parts of the world where they have been under dangerous circumstances, and they look to the United States to provide up-to-date information of their safety and security in the country.
The President has frequently talked about getting out of Afghanistan as a major event. It has impacted his polling. This is a current event that is underway. The question is, what does the administration say to critics who are looking at these two events and questioning this administration's foreign policy approach?
Who is questioning us? Give me
Plenty of Republicans.
Like who?
I could name off any number of Republicans.
I'd love to know a name.
Goodness. Mitch McConnell.
Okay. Well, here's what I would say to Mr. McConnell. The president ended a 20-year war in Afghanistan, a war that had cost us thousands of American lives, billions, trillions of dollars, and was a failed enterprise after 20 years. He was the first president to do that after many of his predecessors failed to take exactly that step. We knew it would be complicated. We knew it would be challenging. He had the courage to get our troops out of there and end a 20-year war. This is entirely different, because we are not ending a 20-year war. We are trying to prevent war here. We are trying to keep American citizens safe in Ukraine by encouraging them to depart, by providing them information about what the security circumstances are on the ground. And I think it's important for the American public to understand the significant differences between these different scenarios.